Larry Shover, Chief Investment Officer at SFG Alternatives, joins us live from Chicago right now. Larry, great to see you as always. What's the market expecting to see here with the US midterm result?
Well, right now I think they're expecting, we have 36 governorships at stake for 36 different states. That's mixed. There's 50 hotly contested House seats. They continue to expect that Republicans will remain controlling that. And actually, the market seems to be pricing in 6 Senate seats, which would give the Republicans the majority. But beyond that, it doesn't seem like the market's expecting any big changes to happen, perhaps passing the corporate tax laws in the U.S., et cetera, but nothing major. But it would continue to keep Barack Obama from passing other legislation and maybe have his veto button out a little bit more usual than he's had in the past.
So a Republican-controlled Senate, if that's the result, does the market welcome that as a positive? Is it already priced in? It doesn't really change anything?
Yeah, you know, I think it's priced in that Republicans will take control of the Senate with those 6 Senate seats. I'm sorry. And if that doesn't happen, if they do not win that, I think there will be a negative surprise to the markets tomorrow morning when we wake up and find out that's happened. But I think it's already priced in, and otherwise waiting to see if that, comes about.
Just on to other issues, of course, in the performance of markets. It's been very interesting, hasn't it? I mean, that near 10% correction on the S&P 500 and then a very quick rally back up to fresh record highs. It's off a little today. Well, what do you make of the performance of markets over the past 2 months?
Well, I think what it is like we're just being ruled by sentiment as opposed to fundamentals in the market, and that's something I've been talking about all year, and it's been very scary. It reminds me of what we saw back in January and February and before that in September with the government shutdown, where the market's not looking at fundamentals, looking past that, and more at psychology and sentiment. I mean, consider the fact that October 15th, we saw the VIX trade at 31. That's the same level that we saw in 2012 with the Eurozone crisis, on par with the level of 2011 Japanese earthquake. We saw 10-year yields move 35 basis points in one day on a marginally bad U.S. retail sales number. So it makes me frightened in the sense that the market's not really sturdy and it's being run more by psychology. So where do you see it going then, given the way it's fared? Or is it impossible to tell given what it's being ruled by? Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Like right now, it seems a lot more stable given what we saw in October. I mean, October was the whole year in 1 month on a silver platter. But I do think we'll creep higher over the medium to long term. But right now, it seems like the market just wants to be stable. And the best thing that could happen, like for the S&P 500, is to drift back into that 1950 to 1990 zone that I've talked about for the past 6 months. It seems like until the data gets better than it is today, I think we're a little bit ahead of ourselves. So we're very vulnerable for another mini correction.
We've got a lot going on, ECB and all the growth issues there. We've got non-farm payrolls later in the week, US midterms on top of all of that, as you mentioned. But when it comes down to it, at the moment, is oil the really big story?
Yeah, it definitely is a big story, getting a lot of headlines. And we saw, as we woke up this morning, that last night that Saudi Arabia cut prices and it brought oil down to a pre-crisis low. I mean, it is getting a lot of headlines. But the thing that we're not really looking at, I guess, correctly, is that in the U.S., our industry right now is based off of a lot of new technology for production of shale oil, and we really don't know how we're going to act or how we're going to persist through lower prices. I mean, some people are starting to estimate that maybe the lower 70s is the price point where things will start to go badly for our industry, but right now we're in uncharted territory because we've never had this type of drawdown given the new production methods that we have here in the U.S.
Okay. Just looking out to the growth concerns that they've sort of come back with a vengeance, particularly with the ECB meeting this week and these reports that central bankers in the euro area plan to challenge the ECB chief Mario Draghi over his leadership style. I mean, this is the last thing they should be doing right at this point of time.
I know. I know, and you know, it came out at such an opportune time, like, you know, 10 o'clock this morning, Chicago time. Let's keep in mind that the underpinning to the whole market in Europe has been that 2012 Bumblebee speech. That was just unbelievable, you know, game-changing for the market, and just gave a lot of foundation to what's going on there. I mean, we know that Draghi has come out with a lot of rhetoric that people just kind of shudder or roll their eyes. But yeah, you're right. A lot of people have come out and basically pointed the finger at him, especially when he singled out Germany during that Jackson Hole speech just a couple of months ago. So the bottom line is, I don't think the market was expecting any big policy changes from now until December 11th, because he's made it very clear that he wants to see how these current policies act. What's problematic is that right now the central bank, the ECB, is the most important bank in the world in terms of stability. And right now, if they can't, if they don't have the latitude to make changes, that could spell trouble for growth going forward.
Just quickly as well, as we watch and wait for the non-farm payrolls report, I just wanted though to ask you about what you've been hearing from the corporate side of things, the earnings season now that it's pretty much wrapped up. What's your view on how corporate America's faring?
Well, you know, corporate America, that's the thing. It's like we've seen like an 80% beat by 5.5% on the top line. 60% of revenues have grown. That's great, but the understory is hearing like company management like GE, Intel, Wells Fargo come out and talk about how they think the economy is stable, how their growth is going to be good. That's, that's the takeaway, and I think that's what's keeping our market where it is presently.